Okay, welcome back to our IKEMA 2026 coverage, everyone. We're at the Honda stand again. They've got plenty of interesting announcements this year, but I think one of the most hotly anticipated will be this, the latest in their sort of V3 development program. This is the newest prototype, and as you can see, it looks much more like a fully formed bike than the one they showed last year, which was more of a rolling chassis. So yeah, we've got a bit more of an idea of what a final production version will look like, as well as some extra details in the press release. And so in this video, we'll go through all of the details that we know so far. Now, we did already know vaguely the engine configuration and how it will be powered. It's a V3, which I think they've used one in the past, Honda, way back in their history. But yeah, V3 is a very unusual layout. It's not something you'll see elsewhere on the motorcycle market now, with almost like a parallel twin at the front with the two cylinders and then a single cylinder further back under your legs. It's a 75 degrees V-twin, I think, in terms of the angle between those two banks of cylinders. And the key benefit, I suppose, or one of them of this particular configuration, is that it leaves the bike very slim between the Roz's legs, which of course allows them to really optimize the ergonomics without being interrupted. Let's say by, a wider V4, for example. Then the other thing we already know as well was that it's going to get an Eco-Compressor, so a little electronic compressor on the top. Not quite the same as like a turbo or a supercharger, but it will give it forced induction. And so, I assume this gives it a little bit of efficiency. It's something that's very common, of course, to get turbos in cars, for example. But also, they are claiming that it will give this bike better bottom end and torque than perhaps you would otherwise expect. So, it should have a nice low end kick. Now, the thing they've kind of announced today is the capacity. So, there was a lot of speculation as to whether it be like a 650 or a 750, but they've actually confirmed this is going to be a 900. So, pretty healthy in terms of displacement, let's say. But also on top of that, they've revealed that they expect it can produce performance figures which are much more comparable with something like a 1200, owing, I guess, partly again to that Eco-Compressor. Now, I guess you could go one or two ways here. If you're talking about a 1200 in terms of the sports bike market, then maybe we expect it to be revvy and top-end powerful and capable of something like a 200 horsepower peak figure, or are they building an engine that's more of an all-rounder that they'll use in a tourer and an adventure bike? And so it'll be in a slightly more chilled out tune, and then maybe it'll be more torquey, and maybe make around more like 150 horsepower peak. That sort of stuff is TBC. I'm sure we'll find out maybe next year, the next DMA. Hopefully, it'll be production ready by then. But as you can see, things are really starting to take shape, and it does sound like a very exciting and interesting bike to ride. Nice to meet you anyway. Take care, okay? Thanks. Now look, one of the best things at IKEMA is meeting people who watch the channel, and Kalamoto have sponsored this trip and also given me 25 golden tickets with a 12-month free Kalamoto membership. So, it's nice to be able to give those out. If you're walking around the show, if any of you are here, come and find me. Hopefully, I'll have one left. But for the rest of you, there is a 10% discount code down in the description below. So, you can take advantage of that. And if you've not heard of it, Kalamoto is a motorcycle-specific navigation app. So, it doesn't just give you the quickest route on straight boring motorways and stuff like that. It uses its own algorithm to find good twisty curvy motorcycle roads, so it's a great way to plan brilliant routes, and like I say, 10% off down below. Now, they haven't been particularly generous with sort of chassis details, but I think that's because this bike is still at very much the prototype stage, and if we do see production models, it'll probably change quite a lot. But I'll give you a little bit of a talk through what I can see. There's no spec sheet or anything, maybe just to get a bit of a rough idea as to how they might eventually configure it. I mean, clearly most bikes now use the engine as a stress member for most of their structure. That allows the manufacturer to save quite a bit of weight in terms of the frame materials. Also, it helps with rigidity as well. And so with this bike, you can see they've got a steel trellis wrapped around the front part of the V3 engine. And of course, that's going to be bespoke to this engine because they don't have another with similar dimensions. Through to the back, you can see it almost looks like a cast subframe that's bolted also to the rear cylinder bank and then down at the swing arm pivot. So, it looks like a very lightweight design, and then they have gone with a single-sided swing arm, which is not dissimilar to what you might have seen on the CB000R Naked, which I don't know if it's still in the lineup anymore, but it's sort of replaced by the CB000 Hornet. Up front, we've got an upside-down fork. I assume it's got adjustability. There's a monoshock at the rear. It looks like its own swing arm as well, and then they've gone a little bit bling with the wheels and brakes. So it's got some wavy discs with some 4-part radial Nissan brake calipers up there. And then we've got these nice looking wheels, although it is all covered in this kind of camo print. I guess to again hold back on what the final production version might look like. But actually, Tim, you quite like it, don't you? It looks quite cool. Typical naked, sporty naked kind of fare. It's got some Michelin Power Cup 2s, maybe a SP2s. So maybe they've been doing a bit of track stuff with it. They look like they're fairly well worn in those. And yeah, we've no weight figures, we've no wheelbase or anything about the geometry, but just to the eye, it looks like a slim and lightweight bike. As you can see as well, this is very much like a naked ergonomic, quite sporty. It's got fairly flat handlebars on it, not much in terms of rise in the bend in the bars. It's like a pointy tail up seat. You've got the little fairly high and far back foot pegs there as well. So I think it probably would feel quite sporty, this bike. But realistically, you know, no motorcycle manufacturer is going to spend so much time and resource and money developing a new platform like this without applying it to a bunch of different genres or applications. And so I'd fully expect that this engine would be, for example, used in an adventure bike or a tourer. At 100-200-ish levels of performance, you've got to think that they would potentially look at putting it in something like the Africa Twin or the NT1100 Tourer, maybe in I say slightly more chilled out tune, but equally it'd be, I guess, right at home in something like this. And it'd be very interesting to see if they ever would put it in a sports bike of the Fireblades kind of character. Lovely view of that single-sided swing arm over from this direction, and I really think it looks very good, this prototype. But onto the tech. There's not a great deal of indication as to what we can expect in this bike. But if it is a top-end premium naked bike, then I think it's realistic to think that you're going to get all the riding modes, lean-sensitive rider, all the track-specific electronics that you typically expect from most, performance nakeds at the moment. And we can see in the cockpit as well that it's got a kind of slim TFT dash. It's not quite like anything in the current lineup, but also a fairly healthy array of buttons on the switchgear, a joystick to navigate menus and stuff like that. So yeah, expect rider modes, rider aids, and connectivity and menus and features. Now, visually, we've already talked about the camo. I think it looks really, really cool. I've also said about the single-sided swing arm. There's a couple of three other things I want to talk about. Number one is the light at the front, the LED headlight. It looks really aggressive and modern. Perhaps something that people wish Honda would do a bit more often is be brave with their designs and design with a little more flair, and so it's great to see it here. And I really hope this kind of aggressive front end does make it to whatever production vehicle they make out of this particular platform. Then you've got this fairing with the kind of side pods at the top. And you can't really tell from looking at it here, but if you're from the back or head on, you'll actually see that it's asymmetrical. It's slender on the left, but over on the right here, it actually sticks out quite far. And I assume that's because it's the intake for the Eco-Compressor, or it has some of the Eco-Compressor structure folded into it. Not necessarily something I'd say that's good looking, but it's interesting and makes it stand out and gives it a bit of character, and so I'm all for that. Lastly, I like this little trick of manufacturers kind of signaling what engine they've used with the exhaust. You'll see on a Diavo V4 from Ducati, for example, that it has a quad exit exhaust, even if it's just for the cameras. And they've kind of done the same here. I like this triple exit silencer that we've got at the back here. It just gives it a bit of a differentiation. Again, something that looks quite cool. And so, I think a good job all round. Like I always say in these videos though, very much subjective the looks of a bike. But I'd be surprised if people don't like this. So, let me know what you think down below. No price or availability or even indication as to when the production version will come. But safe to say, this one will be keenly anticipated each year at IKEMA until we finally see what hits the market. I'd love to know from you, though, in the comments, what kind of bike do you hope they make on this V3 Eco-Compressor platform, and would you actually buy one over some of the competition? Leave a comment down below. I'll also put our IKEMA playlist on the screen now, so you can watch all of the videos we put out so far, as well as stay up to date with whatever's coming next. We're seeking out all the best bikes of this year's show. And of course, if you're not subscribed already and you want to see those videos as soon as they go live, then do hit subscribe down below so you can stay up to date. A massive thanks for watching this particular video, and we'll see you very shortly in the next Auto World Zone.